Prova.
Hi, welcome everybody. Thank you for coming. Welcome to the first lecture of the ACC series. For start, I would like to ask you to ask later for the logistical question about ACC lecture in general. Okay, now I would like to thank Francesca Soldati for the supervision of this lecture, and she will be our moderator today. And I'm very happy to present you Alvar.
Hello, everyone. I would first like to thank Francesca that invited me in very fast timing, because we organized it like in 2 weeks. So I'm very happy to be here, and thank you all for coming in this lunch break time. Actually, I have to correct, because I'm not the Aaltissimo, I'm not the real Aaltissimo, because I'm just his intern. I'm intern at Aaltissimo Architects, that is a reality that does architecture projects and urban projects and research. So I'm doing this non-paid internship that is in a form of contract that is permanent and not paid for the rest of my life. So this is my situation. So this is my boss. There is a very tall guy, because actually in Italian Altissimo it means very tall, so it's more than 2 meters high, more than 2 meters tall architect. So I'm sorry that it's not fitting in the slide. And I would like to divide this intervention in 3 parts. The first 2 are more boring, because they are more theoretical. And I would like to explain some cases of the relation between satire and architecture, and then meme and architecture, or meme and architecture, but I would say meme because in English it sounds better. And then a selection of projects by Aaltissimo, that is the office where I work for. So just please remember that this is a serious lecture, so everything that I will show it's 100% serious and not something to laugh for it. So can I just want to okay, so the first part of this intervention is about satire and architecture, and it's quite a tough topic to speak of, because in general architects are too much serious, and they take architecture as a serious thing that can be discussed in a way that is not serious, or we can laugh on architecture. So in general, satire in architecture is something that is made by non-architects that look at other architects and architectures, like architectural firm that does sketches, and they just bring papers and they do projects, and actually I think they are right. But this is a quite famous example that is in the pop culture. This is an episode of Simpson, where there's a Simpsonizated Frank Gehry that receives a commission by letter for the new auditorium of Springfield. And with a simple gesture, he just brings the letter and creates the model. But this is a point of view from non-architects that looks at architecture as a cultural things. And where I want to focus in this first part is about satire and architecture made by architects and projects that uses satire to say something. So I want to introduce this Milanese architect, that is Piero Portaloupe, that maybe some of you know for his Milanese projects, that actually has a huge production in Milan. He did a lot of private houses and also public houses. There's Villa Necchi Campiglio and Arengario in Piazza Duomo, so quite famous and important buildings in the early 30s till the 50s. So it's a quite interesting figure because its first part of architectural career was made by satirical projects. He had an education as a satirical comic strips. He worked for some newspaper to do these satirical images, satirical drawings. And so he was facing the problems of the urban of the city, the urban problems of the time. This is a really funny drawing of 1924, so 1 century ago. And the problem of the city was the presence of a huge presence of the current, so the traffic. So this was a project that is like surreal. It's something that is more it's closer to comics than architecture, and it's a project for the normalization of traffic with this infrastructure that is a bridge that suck people with the system that can be regulated and allow people to go to the other side of the street. And there's a really important attention to details, because the only one that is in the middle of the street going in the right way, it's Portaloupe itself that goes by bike in the center, and is the only one that is breaking the rules of the street. And this one is another, it's quite the same years, don't know the exact date, but it's similar, and it's a system with a tape where people can took this glue that they stick with their head, and then do this line and cross the streets in a easy way, in a quite easy way. Let's say that these, of course, are not architectural projects; they are provocative, and they are like just funny images. But then, when Portaloupe started to do the practice of architecture, he did also architecture projects that looks more similar to real architecture projects. So we have, for example, this one that is quite important. It's a project for skyscraper in New York, in a historical moment where skyscrapers were rising for the first time. It was quite a new type of architecture, and New York, everyone would dream to build his own skyscraper. So he did this building that is 3 or 4 times bigger than the average height of the city, for this society that is called SKNA. And what he wants to say is, with the name of this society that is not a real one, it's gioco di parole. I don't know, it's like it's
joking.
yeah, it's a joke because in Italian you can read this letter says scappane because K is kappa, so you can read it as scappane. That means run away from this kind of architecture. And we are lucky because today we don't have building like this in the cities. I mean. So another one is this one. So you can see that he aimed to do these visions that use the language of architecture to criticize the model of developments of the city. This is a project for Healthy Town, that of course means town of the health. So something that we don't want, he didn't want. And also this today, it's something that is it's maybe normal in some city, also in China we have some cases that are really similar to this kind of building. Also this one, it's really interesting. It's the last one by Portaloupe. It's a master plan for the city of Allabanuel. That is an invented city because he wanted to criticize the way how they at the time they developed the city. So it's a quite rigid grid that has the repetition of the model of the typology and without any variation of the city. And also in this case we have a joke with the name, because the name of the city that is invented is Allabanuel, that can be read reverse, Leona Balla, that is a Milanese dialect. That means, in a way, a translation, it's a fake news. So he declared with this hidden name the joke of this drawing. But what's the important thing is that he worked in a way where the drawings are really detailed. They are really, we can say, real projects and real piece of art in a way. So what we have today is this kind of thing. This is what Portaloupe, with his drawings, tried to avoid, or tried to do that, say that they are not the right way to do architecture. But what we have today is something like this. This is a village in Turkey that was developed in 2014, and it's completely abandoned. This is quite an important image for me, because it's a bridge that I want to connect from this first part, the relation between satire and architecture, and the second part, that is between the meme and architecture. So everyone knows the word meme. That is something that in general we refer to internet memes. But memes is a theory, is something, it's a discipline, the memetics, that is quite interesting and was born before the coming of internet. And it's a discipline that looks at the cultural imaginary, the cultural way of how the idea are transforming. So in this case, we have the replication, the copy-paste of a thing, but the most important thing is the reference to the fairy Disney tale building that has to be attractive. This is a castle that we can associate to Disney. So it's quite important that to sell this kind of idea and of dream for this new city, you have to refer to something that is recognizable from people. And that is, in a way, a mimetic project, because it has the repetition and the reference to something that we already know. So, like the main base of the memes that we see on internet is most of the time something that we know and that it's reinterpreted in another way. So we can say that meme is not only a funny thing that it's a joke, but it's a serious thing. It's something that look at the process, how the culture and the image are developing, collecting the references and cultural references, and it can be work of art, it can be architecture, it can be something. It's something that collects and merge things with the use of paradox and irony and other stylistic things. So these are internet memes, and we can say that most of them are something that we recognize as meme, but it starts from another point. So we have Messi, Willy Wonka, and so on. And so we will see some memes by Alvarissimo that are the paradox of architecture. So if we imagine to change the point of view that it can exist Miss van der Rohe that doesn't want less is more paradigm and wants something, he will scream and say, I said more. Like it's another way of seeing the architecture. Or another Nicholas can say, today everyone will go home at 5 p.m. That's of course something that will never happen. And in architecture, what we can have is the result of this kind of process is it's made by postmodern architecture. There is in the process of the design to merge something that is recognizable. So in this case, for Disney building in Burbank, California, Michael Grace merges an idea of a Greek temple that is standard by the Seven Dwarfs. That is actually the Seven Dwarfs by Snow White and Seven Dwarfs, but to take symmetry, because there are seven, only three are below, and the seventh one is in the center to maintain the symmetry that was quite important. So now we will see a selection of projects per Aaltissimo. This is a selection of Photoshop, but anyway. And I will see we will see 4 projects. If we have time later, we can see also if you have requests to see one that you saw on Instagram. And the path that we will follow is by in order to scale from the biggest one to the smaller one. So we will see a territorial scale, then infrastructural, architectural, and domestic scale. Just to understand that the office of Aaltissimo is working in every scale and in every field where architecture is part of. First one is a project for the saving of Italian summer 2020. I don't know if you remember in 2020 there was a pandemic. I don't know if some of you were too young to remember, but there was a pandemic. And the most important thing is in this case of in this historical time of emergency, what is important to save? So the name of the project is Saving of Italian Summer. And the starting point is a project by Suter Studio made in 1972. There is a project, a series of projects that is named the Saving of Italian Historical Centers. Because at the time there was a real cultural emergence about to save the historical center, because they were developing, they were abandoned, and there were this idea to, they were caring to save the historical center. And Super Studio did this series of projects on Rome, Pisa, and Florence, and in this case you see Venice, how to solve this, how to save with some solution the historical center. And in this case, Venice, this problem of high water is solved by burying of the channels and with cars that passing in the historical center of Venice. Actually, the problem is solved, so it was a good project. But the question that we had in 2020 is, what is important to save in 2020? And the answer is that it's important to save the summer, and the Italian summer, so something that is more than just a season. It's something that is an event, and every event needs to have a manifesto. So this is the manifesto of this project. The problem of in 2020 was to maintain the distance. So for all the coastline, the proposal was to infrastructure it with some concrete walls that are distanced 2 meters, 2 meters by the distance to arrive to the sea. And it's something that looks like this. So everyone can arrive to the beach and have its own parasol, its own chair, and go in a distanced way to the beach. You can of course enjoy with the games. You can play with this flamingo, pink flamingo balloon. There are people that prefer to go to the pool, but they go to the beach, and also for these people, you have this right at the pool. It's also available. It's on demand, but it's also available. And this is a kind of scheme how the coastline can be infrastructured in the different shape of the coast. So you have islands, you have coast, and you have the different orographic part. So how this series of wall, this sequence of wall will be done. Quite important is the presence of this little tower that looks at the surrounding, and with these throw flames that is part of this tower, and the sheriff can control that no one will break the rules. You can play also with the other people with this billiard room. Of course, it's forbidden to go to the other strips of sentences, otherwise the banana in pyjama with this throw flames will kill you. And also it's allowed to, with artistic gestures, to avoid some rules, but this is quite okay. Then we have the Lipari Airport. As the 7 dwarfs, the Aeolian Islands are 7. So we are in the north of Sicily. It is an archipelago. Of course, we always don't remember the name of all the 7 and the 7 dwarfs, but we concentrate to the most big one, that is Lipari. That of course it's a beautiful place, and it needs an airport, because a beautiful place needs an airport to be connected with Milan. Aeolian Island, and this is Lipari. Lipari is a beautiful island, and it has a historical center, and then a small, let's say, small village and small group of houses in the island. It's a volcanic archipelago. It's all a volcanic island, so it has a quite important orography, and so the position is it's in the part of where a mountain was, with a simple flattening of the mountain. We have the arc is these 3 lines in blue. That is Lipari Mazza Caruso. That sounds really Sicilian, because it's actually the name of the mountain that was before the construction of this airport. In the 60s, the coastline of Lipari was infrastructured with these bridges that were used for the extraction of pomice stone. So it was quite an interesting image to justify the shape of our airport. There is this one. Of course, you see that the orography was not ideal, so we did these lines, and the airplane can easily arrive to the island. This is a seagull view. And also the terminal, it has an important design that is quite a featuring, because Aeolian Island refers to Eolo, that was the god of wind. So we asked to him to make the design more contemporary. At the beginning was the top one that was using the traditional architecture of the Aeolian Islands. But then with this gesture of that represent the wind, he used its blow and does this and did these diagonal columns that are more contemporary. So it's and of course, when you arrive to the airport, you can go to the main city with a sympathetic donkey that can be paid with the post, and with these streets that of course are ideal for transportation. Third project, it's a stadium, so it's an architectural scale, and it's the San Siro Stadium. That if you heard of it, it's a quite important debate in the last years, because it's there's a master plan that planned to demolish it, and more of the supporters, but also some people are against the demolition of this stadium. So there is a debate, because it's quite an symbolic building. It's quite an important for his historical significance for the city, and also if it has problems according to the rules that we have today, and the way of we organize today events and sport events. So there is debate if we have to demolish it or not. But I don't know if they are going to do it, but there are a lot of projects now that are doing a new San Siro Stadium. This one is done by an architectural team, a small architectural firm in Milan that is Guerra Architetti. I don't know if you know this small firm. And so they did it. So why Alvar not have to do it? But the first thing is not about just the shape, because now we have this traditional shape of the intended stadium, where the stems are looking to the field, and this is quite how 100% of build of the stadium in the world done. But we thought that with the contemporary technologies, this kind of typology can be reverted. So what we did is to rise up the field, and the stands are looking to the other side, with two big stands for normal people, and the other two are for VIP and invited people that more VIP places. And you have screens that are screened in a super high definition technology, so you can see with this immersive experience the match. This is how it will look like. So despite the concept that is very strong and reverted, the idea of stadium, we wanted to maintain the elements of the ancient, the former stadium that there was before, so the truss and the structure that are red, and they maintain the same shape, and this big concrete cylinder that are for circulation at the corners of the field. This is the plan, so you can see all the stems are in the opposite side, and the picture stands look at this screen, but they have also a little park where during the break time they can go in the middle of the nature and enjoy the 50 minutes of break. So that's the immersive experience where they support the team. And this is how the field will look like. So the players don't have the problems of this annoying sound of support. Oh. So they are more calm and they can play without disturbing. And that's what the section reveals, because it's you have these two steps, but rising the field, you have this free space in the ground floor, and there's a double skin where in the middle there is a shopping mall where people to go to the stands that can buy all the merchandising of the squadra, Milan and Inter. So this is the last project. And this is quite a different project. It is not properly a design project, but this is a research about living in Milan in contemporary times. And the first reference I want to show you is this movie by Castellano and Moccia, that is Il ragazzo di campagna with Renato Pozzetto. That means the guy from the countryside. And basically it's the story of this main character that comes from the countryside and decided to go to the city. In 1984, there were a different idea of countryside and city. It was more marked the difference. So in 1984, he tried to go to look for a house to live in Milan, and with the advice of a friend, he visited this house. There is this one, and it's this one because it's actually the full house, because it's everything pop up. There is this sliding bed, and in the table is also hidden in the wall. So he was a bit not convinced of this house, but at the end he called his mother from the telephone that is in the shower cabin, and he say, "I'm here. It's wonderful. I want to stay forever here." So at the end, it's a happy ending. But the other reference first showing the project is this book. This book is a research that was done by Politecnico that is called Case Milanesi, Politecnico of Milan, sorry. Case Milanesi. There is quite a big book that has these drawings. This building is by Portaloupe, and it's a sequence of big buildings, big facades and section architectural plans of this building that are Milanese. Milanese, it means like the identity of Milan. So it's it was quite clear because when I looked this book, I thought, yes, that is now relevant to say that it's a Milanese architecture. What is Milanese architecture today? Milanese architecture today is this one, because when you go to look for houses, you find something like this. This is the Casa con Terrazzino. That is quite convenient to live in Milan, and also Casa con Terrazzino with flowers to be more sustainable. And this research is a book that collects everyone, that collects a sequence of plans, and in this sequence you have the adding of elements during the sequence. So now you have also the bathroom that is not something common. House with bathroom, 450 euros black. That is not per month. It's black. Yeah, black by hand. Quite important is the condition of people that are engaged from not long time, that want to move to Milan and have an independent life. That at one point they want still to divide the rent, but they build a wall to don't have problems. Also, it's quite important to have a bedroom that is close to the office. So in this case, you have in this curtain wall walls that contains the room. That is, I think, 1 minute walking from the office. That is 800 euros per month. That is quite convenient. Also, someone wants to be close to the public transport. So Zona Loreto is really close to the railway station, to the metro station. 590 euros per month plus the card that is not included. So, this is everyone maybe has seen on Instagram this building, this Bosco Verticale, but we always see the photos and we've never seen the plans. So this is a spoiler. This is the plan that you can find, plans, architectural plans that you can find inside the Bosco Verticale with innaffiatoio, the thing to water the plants that is included, and it's a 1,000 euros, 1,200 euros for 3. So this is a 3, so it's 1,200 euros per month. And then we have the last one, that is the apartment of Milan that don't stop, because in Milan you have to run. And this is the representation of this condition with this bed that has the pillar side of it, so you can sleep, and the tapis roulant that continuously go in loop with the desk on it, so you can work without stopping, literally. And I will end this this lecture with this open call that I did like 2 weeks ago. That will be for an exposition in the Fuori Salone in the Design Week in April. That is Draw Your Casa Aaltissimo. So if you want to go on Instagram and see the brief, it's okay. So that's all.
Thank you for the lecture. Just a couple of words before we open the floor for questions from the students. While preparing this invitation, we discussed briefly with the group of PhD who is in charge of the organization of the seminar series, because I was recommending your presence as the first invited guest, since I think the work of Alvar Aaltissimo, here you can see 2 books, the one regarding Milan and the one that follow regarding Bologna. They was not introduced, but somehow these are the 2 works that for me clarify the way in which a work like the one by Alvar Aaltissimo can take very seriously architecture as a profession, using the language so seriously that you can say certain things in a way that is relevant to continue a conversation on what we are doing as architects on the one hand, but also what architecture design meant in the contemporary world. I really appreciated that in the beginning of this lecture you introduced a number of possible references of what Alvar Aaltissimo is not doing, and also the potential linkages that we have with the Italian tradition, in which there were moments, even moments in which architecture as a profession was probably more relevant, more debated, more engaging, also for a general public, and therefore the use of satire as a tool was something that was directly speaking a larger audience. What I think Alvar Aaltissimo's work is not doing is producing images for architects only. I think that at least the work that is published in the form of the book, and even more the Instagram page, in which I'm pretty sure a number of persons just passed by because of a specific image that is recommended, and not necessarily because they are following the entire work, can help in focusing element of paradox in our life that engage both those who are into architecture profession and those who live the effect of architect's work. I'm not sure you agree on everything I said, but I hope that is also the opportunity for the student to have further thought and to reflect more on even the way in which you introduce yourself as the intern of Alvar Aaltissimo's office, because again, I think it is one of the most convincing elements of the work of Alvar Aaltissimo is having fun, taking seriously the work of an architectural designer.
Thank you. I think if we have time, we can discuss, or if you have some questions, or if you want to say something. Yes.
I'm really interested in the 2 case studies you showed, right, the stadium. My question is, when you made that proposal, what was the reaction of the people, of the clients on this? Anyone who saw it, what was the reaction?
Yeah.
At least, let me not assume from the reaction we all shared when we saw that idea. So I'd like to know from you, what was the reaction? How did the people receive such, should I call it, strange out of the imagination idea? That's one.
Yeah, thank you. The other one? Yes.
The other one is the Casa Milanese. This
Yeah.
one is just like, I think it really reflects to me how we can actually comprehend this idea of satire in architecture, satire and architecture. Because I think as architects, we have become tools in the hands of businessmen.
Mhm.
That we really do not pay attention to what we design. So long the money comes in, we don't care actually. And I think it is a call to actually, for self-reflection, if I should say that, for self-reflection, that we should acknowledge that we design buildings for people, not for animals. I've heard stories about Milan, how expensive the housing in Milan is, the numbers of square meters you can even rent for 1 month, with so much exorbitant prices. I think we as architects, all this also boils down to us. Because if a design is being made, nobody cares about who the developer is, but the name and the profession of the architect is brought into, it's made caricature. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the questions. The first one is the San Siro. It was not comprehended. First of all, there's not a client, the client is Aaltissimo. I mean, in this case, there was, let's say, a collaboration with a sport magazine that is Outpump magazine, that is the urban style graphics and culture. So when it was published, most of the people didn't understand that it was a joke. So they said like, yes, but if I go to the stadium, I want to see the match. So that's paradoxal, and it was not comprehended. So that was a really funny thing. But on the other hand, some people understood the theme of like the selling of architecture, that it doesn't matter of the shape. The only thing that is important today is to have the shopping mall. So it's not only a stadium, but it's something where you can pay and buy the branded things. And also this idea of immersive experience that in some cases it's a fake thing. I mean, you have behind you the match, and then they said that the one that sells you the experience, and it's a very full experience with high definition screen, latest technology, you have the part where you can go. So it's about the storytelling that if it's not connected to the reality, it can say a story that is not the true. And so we need to have acknowledgement, I mean, of what we are saying or we are seeing, and what are the transformations that there are in the city. And in this case, I just did the part of this case study that is related to the architecture and the experience and not about the master plan. That is another thing, because in this case, San Siro will have a transformation of $1 billion. That is about really huge massing of new building and new residence and a lot of new building and new transformation area. And the only thing that passes is about the debate of the stadium. That is something weird, because we don't care about how the money are going for the big master plan, but we care the debate is only about the stadium. So this is a point. This is not the project I didn't explain, but it's quite important in this story. And for San Siro, it's this one, and Case Milanesi. That's quite a strange project, because it uses the language of architecture, but in my opinion, it's all but an architecture book, because it's just represented with the style of architecture, but it reveals the situation that you can find, that I hope that they are not made by architects. It's something that exists. So and architects that were against this book, some architects were against this book. They said that this offended the discipline, because I'm joking with architecture, but I'm joking with the system that we have in the cities, and
the system that make this.
Yes, exactly. That arrives to make something like this. And in Milan, the problem is not that relevant, because for this case, there was a comment. A guy said, this was my house in Hong Kong. So in Milan, so far, we don't have this kind of, but we can have it. So it's what I try to say with this kind of satire is to don't accept, of course, this kind of thing, and try to understand what are the systems that produce this kind of living situations. Thank you. Thank you.
First of all, I really appreciate the point of view of satire architecture. That was somehow interesting to me, and I didn't know about it. It was my first time seeing such a thing. But I'm really curious about the Alvar Aaltissimo firm that you said you're an intern there, because to be honest, every firm and every architectural firm and offices should have some kind of source of income. So as you showed, most of the projects are like sarcastic and have a critical point of view, and there are not projects to be like built in the industry. I was curious of what is like how they manage this source of income in the firm, like they do these projects for maybe these can be like hobbies for the head of the firm, but like the people that are working there need to have like an income. So how they're like managing this in
the interns of Aaltissimo.
Interns or all the people that are working on these projects?
They are not paid. I mean, Aaltissimo, it's just me. This is just me. So I can really deal with all that. But I personally do the profession So I'm doing also a serious thing.
He's a real graduate in architecture.
I'm graduated in architecture in Milan, and it's working my house. No, I'm joking. Aaltissimo, it's a project that I did in the later years of architecture degree, and it's something that I used to develop my ideas of architecture and criticize a discipline that for me was too rigid and too close in its boundaries. So the question is, where Aaltissimo take money? It don't. I mean, I with books, with publications, and mostly the production of Aaltissimo is images. So it happens that some collaboration are for the processing of images that are satirical images, and so not projects that have to be built, but so it's let's say it's not like architecture, it's like a drawer work, but and sometimes now I'm working to some exhibitions and like lead architect, temporary architecture. So that's where Aaltissimo takes money, but he doesn't pay us, so that's why he's an architectural firm. Yeah.
I think we should use the mic.
Yes. Yeah, but it was.
So I'm not sure if people are hearing the questions from home. But I wanted to ask one question about the editorial process of the books. That was easy if you had to convince anyone, or I mean, how that came about, especially the first publication, I guess. And also how the Fuori Salone collaboration is going to happen, if you're going to have a physical space, or is it just a social contribution given to the Salone?
Thank you. The books, it's a collaboration with this editor that is Corraini. There is there was a quite there is a quite important editor because he published important designer and like Munari and Somari in the past, and it has this satirical approach, and collaboration was born with the help of Cinozucchi that wrote the text at the end of Case Milanesissime. So it was just he was the bridge of this collaboration. I proposed this the draft of the book. He liked it, and he just contacted Corraini to publish it, and it was a process that lasted 1 year. So it was this one not that simple to go from the first idea to the published book. And for the Fuori Salone, we will have a physical stand at Base Milano, and we will build a scale 1-to-1 Milanese houses, so 5 square meters. And it will be a stand where I hope we can organize, but we will do like interviews inside the house and some events and discussions about the topic of look at the house. And purpose of the open call was is to gather much as possible of other Casa Milanesissime, to do it in a limited edition book that will be exhibited only at Salone, and then we go to Asta di Beneficenza. Charity. So it will be, everyone will participate, we'll do it for a good purpose. That's so other questions?
Other question?
Yeah.
Want to go first? Okay.
Sorry to everyone, but my question is in Italian. Alvar Aaltissimo will translate.
Yes.
E c'è stato un progetto di Alvar Aaltissimo a Torino su un quartiere, quindi c'è stato anche una dimensione di quartiere oltre che infrastruttura. E quartiere che ha chiamato Alvar Aaltissimo per provare ad accendere un focus su una realtà complessa, e questo mi sembra un buon modo di applicare la visione dello studio Aaltissimo a delle questioni anche reali. E ci vuole raccontare qualcosa?
Sure. Thanks. The question was about a project that Alvar Aaltissimo did in 2021 in Turin. That was the end of a sort of workshop, not workshop, but real in-place project, and it was about, I will find it. It was about this neighborhood that is Aurora, that it's not peripheral, but considered as peripheral. This one is the north of Turin. Yes.
I just need to share it for it.
Yes. So basically, this week of working and comprehension and meeting with people of this neighborhood ended up with a project by Alvar Aaltissimo that it's called Aurora, that is the name of the neighborhood, Isola Felice della Diversità, Happy Island of Diversity. Because the analysis that we did for the neighborhood was that this is a really, really relevant quarter for its diversity. This is a scientific map of the diversity of nationality that we have in Aurora. So we have quite intense cultural difference, different nationalities, and in the project of Aaltissimo, it needs to be preserved. And how can we preserve this this diversity, making it as an island? So this is a map of the Aurora inhabitants that inhabits in Aurora, because we drawn also the flag, the official flag of Aurora, that is a yellow flag with the name of Aurora, and then with the channels that rings and lakes in the water. We just did this island that preserve this diversity. So the idea is also of the concept was about public security. You know. So we will install some cameras on all the buildings. So we can control that no one will break the rules in the neighborhood. And actually, apart from the project, that was interesting to have this contact of the reality of the quarter. So we ended up with a presentation in a common space in the neighborhood, and there was discussion about the problems, the real problems that this quarter has, that are about security, about how can there be politics about different culture living together, and so focusing on what the politics can do for these topics. So that was the project. Of course, the sky is an aurora boreal. Yeah. And if you know this as tourism, get what. So this were the two panels that we did for the final part of that workshop. Thanks.
Well, very, very fast.
Yes.
As you say, architects are very rigid, and maybe it's more than architects, professor of architecture are very rigid. People like Chinotrucchi or Adi lives in your project, but do you have a relation with Politecnico of Milan, for example, for the academy, or you think is it impossible for now has a relation between critics of architecture in this kind of way and professors, for example?
Stay away from
That was my answer. No, actually, I don't have a direct relation with the university, and I stay away from it, even if I'm happy to be in as a not part of the university, sometimes in spots doing this kind of intervention. And because I think that the role of the satire and of the critic in some way needs to be outside of certain dynamics. And if this work will be part of the academy, it will lose part of its power. So I try to stay in between and don't say just no, I don't want to talk with architecture, but with the university and academy. But I want to talk and to create this kind of debate about the discipline. So I'm interested in the world of university, but I try to don't be inside and be englobated in this world. Thank you.
I think we have time for one last question.
Yes.
Like a simple question, not so simple. Like in every your work, I think that there are two things that's coming up every time. One is technology, and you show us with some serious study, and the other one is the relationship between tradition and innovation. It's and it's not a simple question, but I will ask you what Aaltissimo and which is the relation that Aaltissimo has with these two things.
Thanks. That's quite an interesting point, because these are two of the main topics that Alvar Aaltissimo tries use to investigate. But they're not the only one. But the thing is that there are two fields how you can read architecture, or maybe another topic. It's that it's common to other projects is about sustainability or this kind of things that relates to architecture, but the main topic is about communication. So it's not about the traditional project, but it's about the I say that this is a traditional project. So these topics are used to enhance this way of communicate the projects in, okay, I'm the architect, I'm right, and I show you that I'm making a park because I'm sustainable, I'm making the innovation because I come from the future, because I use the traditional parts because it's the right way to do architecture. So there are a lot of topics that are part of Aaltissimo project, but I think that the real one is about communication of architecture and also the way we represent architecture and the way we communicate architecture. With also the Case Milanesissime, that it's not just a sequence of plans, but it's a sequence of plans with its description. So the descriptions reveal something that the plan will not show. So.
If I can say just two words as a conclusion. One of the big efforts that were done for today's lecture was to translate into English something that originally was made in a very subtle way, using Italian language and even the Italian language utilized for speaking about architecture, which is a language in itself. In some cases, exactly as it is for common jokes, explaining why things are the way we see them in the images, or why text is written exactly in that way, is a little bit destroying the subtle way in which they were prepared. So somehow today you attended a lecture that was exposing the work of Aaltissimo, but also explaining you a little bit of the way in which it was made.